Long before the Taylor Swifts of the world. I mean, Dolly Parton paved the way and broke the glass ceilings for
It's so
artists
true
to
when you
cross
yeah.
over into the business world. And she was doing this all on her own.
Yeah. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Yasmin Vasugian. Today on the show, we are saying goodbye to a musical and cultural icon. Dolly Parton has died at the age of 80. We're going to look back at her legacy, both on and off the stage, in music, in film, and in philanthropy, helping young kids learn to read. Plus, we are looking into a major Supreme Court decision and the question of whether or not you're going to be able to do mail-in ballot voting come November. I asked Lawrence Hurley, our senior Supreme Court reporter, to come on the show and walk us through the twists and turns of this latest decision. Up first, though, so the trade war with Canada that we talked about last week, it is heating up, to say the least. And the Canadian government just made their latest move. They are now countering the Trump administration's 50% tariffs that took effect on Saturday. Ottawa has hit the U.S. with tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. products exported to Canada. Here is Canadian Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne.
Canada must respond, and today we are, in a proportionate, targeted, and strategic way. Today I'm announcing that Canada will match the United States tariffs dollar for dollar, rate for rate.
The duties range between 15 and 50% based on the matching U.S. rate for the same goods and will take effect on September 8th. It's all coming after weeks of trade talks that ended without a deal. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said he stopped those talks after the U.S. proposed, quote unquote, unfair and uneconomic terms at the very last minute. So for this, I want to bring in Anne Fitz-Gerald, the director of the Balsillie School of International Affairs in Ontario. Welcome, Anne.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So the Canadian government just announced retaliatory tariffs that are going to go into effect on September 8th on a wide range of sectors. So they're hitting fish, dairy, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, electronics. They're going to double the tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminum to 50%. And that's everything from rolls of aluminum to railways. Prime Minister Mark Carney has said that he is just matching U.S. tariffs dollar for dollar. What is your reaction? Is this the right move?
Well, it's something that was inevitable with the current breakdown in negotiations. For Canada, it's not an economy-wide 50% tariff, and this distinction matters, although many producers and companies and communities whose products are caught up by it, a 50% tariff can be existential. So it erases margins, it can freeze hiring, it can make a Canadian producer effectively uncompetitive overnight.
I want to read for you what the president put out on True Social yesterday, on Monday. He said, quote this, "We don't need Canada. They need us. They do 95% of their business with the U.S. With us, it's the exact opposite." What's the reality check when it comes to the percentage of products, trade that is happening with the United States? Does Canada rely more on the U.S. or is it the other way around?
Well, it does rely more on the U.S. for its trade. And I think there have already been a lot of measures taken forward to diversify our trade. The Canadian government, led by Prime Minister Carney, has been on the road over the last year, signing new trade deals with other countries, and also creating pathways for Canadian manufacturers to channel their goods towards other markets. But our geography and level of integrations and supply chain integration alone mean that we can't cut ourselves off from the American market, nor do we want to. We're part of a big North American family, and here I would draw a distinction between the administration and the American people. We have many cross-border societies, so there's a lot of intangible integration as well as tangible economic integration.
And when you have Canada turning to these other trade partners, are they repositioning themselves on the global market and the global economy if they're turning more towards places like China and the European Union versus the United States? I mean, are they in a way potentially changing the future of the world order?
Well, I think the signal of change for the future of the world order was not led by the Canadians and Canadian leaders. It was led by President Trump.
A reaction to President
Yeah.
Trump and his trade
So
policies.
so I think the reaction has accelerated new supply chains, new value chains as well. And countries like Canada have learned that not only do you have to diversify trade, but you need products to diversify into other markets. So Canada is currently working hard, and the government is working hard to incentivize companies and new and emerging companies to value add on top of our rich natural resources. And that's something that Canada hasn't been doing as much as it could have been over the years because of our integration with the United States. So there have been lots of incentive measures that have been released by the government over the last 24 hours that combine with incentives that have been rolled out over the past 12 months to encourage Canadians to value add on top of our rich natural resources that we have coast to coast. We also are being encouraged to bring interprovincial trade barriers down too, and that's something that.
What do you mean by that?
Well, uh, there are additional costs of doing business in Alberta if you are
Got
from
it.
Ontario, and those can easily come down, and they can help raise GDP organically right away.
Is Carney producing a blueprint for other top officials, other countries to push back against the United States and their escalatory trade policies, especially with how reliant historically allies of the U.S. have been on the United States?
There's no doubt that leaders across the world are watching how this plays out at the moment. The cost of not falling for the economic tariff demands, but also the demands on policy autonomy and sovereignty. So this is not just about tariffs anymore. This is about sovereignty and policy autonomy. And countries will be watching to evaluate and enumerate the costs that Canada bears of standing up for its sovereignty and unfair and uneconomic trade practices and proposals, and also the uncertainty that comes with not knowing if a deal done today will be honored tomorrow.
And Fitz-Gerald, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So we have got just 70 days until the midterm elections, but could a recent Supreme Court decision throw a wrench? So on Monday, the justices handed down a 6-3 decision that could pave the way for President Trump to move forward with an executive order aimed at restricting mail-in voting, at least for now. A lower court is still, though, considering whether the EO is even legal. So here's the thing, though. Roughly 1 in 3 Americans voted by mail in the 2024 election, which means this order could have a huge impact if it goes into effect. So I want to bring in NBC News senior Supreme Court reporter Lawrence Hurley for more on this. Hi, Lawrence.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. So let's talk about what this order actually means and also the executive order initially put into place by the president. Because the majority of justices now say it can stand for now. So walk us through exactly what this decision is.
Well, first of all, it's important for everyone to know that right now, there's no change to mail-in voting.
Okay.
The Supreme Court just said that a lower court judge acted prematurely in blocking the executive order. The court said nothing about whether it was legal or not. The case could and probably will return to the justices quite quickly. It's just a very technical decision saying the judge jumped the gun in blocking this executive order before the federal government had even kind of fleshed out its proposals, including a postal service regulation that just got published actually a couple of days ago, which the court didn't really consider. So there's a lot of moving parts here. There's also another injunction that, as we speak, is still in place that blocks this nationwide, which the Supreme Court did not address. So lots of moving parts and lots of things going on.
Okay, so it's not so black and white. So what you're saying essentially is This ruling was not on the merits of the legality of President Trump's executive order. It was a ruling on a lower court's decision to block the executive order. So what was the executive order?
Well, the provisions at issue in this case are two sections of this executive order. There's one that requires the Department of Homeland Security to come up with a list of eligible voters in each state and send them to the state. And then a second part, which is probably the one that's getting more attention, is one that directs the Postal Service to come up with a series of regulations about how it will handle mail-in ballots, which could include provisions that would allow the Postal Service to not send ballots if they don't think that the person who's voting matches up with a list of eligible voters. So that's the one where there's a lot of controversy about that, especially because traditionally the federal government really doesn't play a role in administering elections under the Constitution. That's a job of each state. And so that's why 23 states have challenged this.
So the Supreme Court then making a decision saying that you cannot say this executive order is illegal to a lower court, that is, they are in fact then saying, for now, this EO could potentially feasibly move forward.
Yeah, so what they're saying is when, as has happened now, the Postal Service has put out a regulation that is a lengthy document that says exactly what the Postal Service wants to do. The groups and states that are challenging the executive order need to challenge that, right? So it gets very technical, and it actually raises some real questions that the liberal justices referenced in their dissenting opinions, because the liberal justices are saying, look, we know exactly what this executive order says, what it's telling the Postal Service to do, and they don't have the authority to do this, so we should just stop it now. And Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, in a separate dissenting opinion, went even further and suggested that the whole point of this executive order is to undermine people's faith in mail-in ballots and create chaos in the election. And that by giving this, even this kind of preliminary ruling in favor of Trump, even though it might not mean anything going forward, it's helping to sow that chaos, right? And she's saying that the court is basically complicit in the Trump administration's scheme to undermine people's faith in mail-in ballots.
Now you have some Democratic governors that are coming out and saying they're going to move forward with the way in which mail-in voting is done no matter what. Do they have options here considering this recent Supreme Court decision?
Yeah, I mean, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has already said that they're going to challenge the new rulemaking that the Postal Service has put out. And the judge in this current case in Massachusetts has already also indicated that she's probably going to block that rule, right? So it's very possible that despite this Supreme Court decision, the actual Postal Service regulation never actually goes into effect. And even if it did, which is another thing worth mentioning, there's no actual evidence necessarily that the Postal Service can even pull this off, even if it is in effect, because I think, as a lot of people know, the Postal Service is struggling with its own financial issues and manpower, and there are real questions about whether it can even implement this at such short notice, with the mail-in ballots being sent out, pretty soon in some states. And even putting that aside, there are big questions about who would actually suffer the most if this was in effect, with some people suggesting that it might not actually be detrimental to Democrats necessarily, who, according to what our colleagues have been reporting, are very enthusiastic about voting in this year's election, whereas Republicans not so much, and so a lot of Republicans rely on mail-in ballots. So it remains to be seen whether, even if this was in effect, it would actually benefit Republicans in the election.
Lawrence Hurley, thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
And finally, today, we have learned that music icon Dolly Parton has died at 80 years old. Her nephew, Brian Seaver, announced her death in an Instagram video.
Dolly opened doors not just for me, but for her entire family to reach the potential we didn't even know was possible. Dolly also opened doors for generations of singers, songwriters, musicians, and dreamers from every walk of life and across every continent. By her example, we believed that anything was possible. She never saw a door she couldn't open, and the doors she opened made and changed history.
Over the course of her 6-decade-long career, Dolly sold over 100 million records. She won 11 Grammy Awards, and she was also a TV star, a Hollywood actress, a successful businesswoman, and a dedicated philanthropist. So for more on Dolly's life and legacy, I want to bring in NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Melas. Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
This news just broke a few hours ago. Dolly Parton was a titan. She is such an incredible person, both on and off screen, it seems, from what we know of her, of course. She grew up in a one-room log cabin in rural Tennessee. She wrote her first song when she was just 6 years old, and then she started out performing in church. How did she become such a huge country music star and legend?
You know, I think as a lot of celebrities who become titans, which I love that word that you use for her, so many, titan, icon, role model, a lot of it is luck, timing, and determination. And Dolly Parton had it all. She had grit. And for so many years, she openly talked over the course of her career about how people didn't take her seriously because she had the big blonde hair, the big boobs, the short dresses, and she was like, don't judge me based on how I look. I mean, she used to joke and say, costs a lot of money to look this cheap. I mean, she
was also a very honest person, the way in which she spoke publicly.
But the whole dumb blonde, Dolly Parton was not a dumb blonde. She was a shrewd businesswoman who over a decades-long career ended up not just becoming, like you said, the iconic music artist, but an actress, okay? In some of starring roles in some of my favorite movies, 9 to 5, Steel Magnolias.
She was so incredible in Steel Magnolias.
But also she made so much money and she was such a great philanthropist, right? So she had the Dollywood Foundation. She cared a lot about children's literacy. She, even during COVID, spent money down at Vanderbilt in Tennessee in her home state funding one of the vaccines. I mean, Dolly Parton, though, no matter what side of the aisle you are politically, I think we all can agree that Dolly is one of the greatest Americans. And she also is somebody that had a really incredible, enduring marriage that she somehow managed to keep out of the public eye. She and Carl, her husband who died last year, they were together for 60 years.
Wow, that's incredible. She also kind of turned her persona into a name brand, right? She created Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, where she grew up. How was she able to do that?
I mean, and long before the Taylor Swifts of the world, I mean, Dolly Parton paved the way and broke the glass ceilings for artists to cross over into the business world. And she was doing this all on her own.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's just a rare breed, right? I mean, a good person, a great legacy, a good reputation, a good human being.
I wonder how she was able to balance not getting into politics, but being outspoken in her support for instance, the LGBTQ community. She made $1 million donation to fund research that led to the Moderna COVID vaccine, right? So she was in one respect able to do things like that, but then in other respects not, for instance, endorse political candidates that she was in support of and be loved by all.
And she was an outspoken Christian, proudly, and at the same time, a supporter of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah.
In 2017, she sat down with Larry King and she said, I keep saying, if you're the fine Christian that you think you are, why are you judging people? That's God's job. And, she also said to a British outlet, I think gay couples should be allowed to marry. They should suffer just like us heterosexuals. She is, that's so Dolly.
Also hashtag true.
I really just think that Dolly Parton was not divisive. I mean, just look at President Trump announcing just moments after she passed, or that it was announced that she had passed, that he wants to lower, I believe, all flags at half-mast today.
Yeah.
I mean, was a unifier.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody could be mad at Dolly.
So,
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything negative about Dolly Parton. I think people need to buckle up because they're going to see so much on their social media feeds of Dolly and learn so much about her over the next couple days.
I was just listening to some of Dolly Parton's music. And do you know what your favorite song is at first? Do you have one?
I have a couple. I think it's Jolene.
Okay. Mine is Islands in the Stream. Islands in the Stream.
Oh, I know it. But 9 to 5, I've used that for so many of my videos of me getting up, going to work, making my coffee.
Working
I have
9
my
to
Dolly
5.
mug.
Yeah.
If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I use the Dolly mug all the time. Gosh, what a sad day.
I will say this, though. As you say that she is a unifier, there was a University of Massachusetts and YouGov poll that found that of 20 international luminaries, Dolly Parton was the most likable, followed by President Obama, who was in second place. Can you believe that? She will be missed by everyone. Chloe Melas, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. That is going to do it for us at Here's the Scoop from NBC News. I'm Yasmin Vasugian. We'll be back tomorrow with whatever the day may bring. And if you like what you saw and you heard, press the subscribe button. We'll see you tomorrow.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.